I've been to maybe 5 or 6 in the past year, and so it's really hard to come up with new content and try not to bore everybody on the same thing being rehashed over and over again. So I work for C2 Group. We are a program management engineering company out of San Diego, and we've been fortunate enough to work and support several utilities with their electrification initiatives, starting with SDG&E and Power Your Drive. We're currently supporting PG&E's EV charge network, and then also Pacific Power. And our roles in these programs have varied anywhere from program management to engineering to customer engagement to site design. And so one of the things that we as a team wanted to kind of share are some of the 5 life lessons, real lessons that we've learned from implementing different EV programs across several different utilities, because there are quite a few commonalities that come into play. So the first one, I give you a little bit of background. I worked for AT&T for about 19 years before going over to C2 Group, and this is kind of what happens when you bring someone who has a background in sales and implementation into a firm that's all engineers. It's a little bit of shift in focus on how we approach things, and so one of the things that really kind of stuck out and sticks out to us still is that EV programs for utilities are unlike any other program that you may have tried to implement before. Being opt-in programs for customers means that they have other options. So while traditionally utilities don't necessarily think of themselves as sales companies, with EV programs you are selling from the initial contact all the way through energization until you hand off that site over to the site host. And so your communication is going to be really important. Your response time is going to be really important. So service levels really are the key to help keep these programs continuing in the momentum and moving forward. Client partners have their own sustainability initiatives, right? They have company initiatives, they have state initiatives that they're trying to meet, and so their timelines are really important. So if we're moving at the same standard or traditional timelines that utilities usually implement programs, they're not going to wait for us. They really need us to be on the ball and look at things through a different lens and probably introduce some new work streams to keep it moving forward efficiently. And business as usual as utility usually will tend to increase program attrition. So you have customers that are applying for whatever reason, whether we're not responsive enough or we're not moving fast enough, they drop out, and it has a negative perception for the program when you're losing customers, because if you had a bad experience with any company or any service that you're trying to get, you don't just tell one person, you usually tell 10, and then it kind of spreads. And when we're dealing with a lot of the utility programs, we're dealing with agencies, we're dealing with property managers, we're dealing with people who have multiple properties and multiple sites. And so a lot of times you don't just lose that one site, you lose the whole portfolio of sites belonging to that agency. And the last one is each life cycle phase matters to the client partners. And so this is really important because it's not just that initial intake of the application and the introduction call for the program. They want to know what's going on with each phase of the program, and they want us to be responsive and to let them know what those next steps are. And sometimes it's a little challenging to get that information out to them in a timely manner. And so these are definitely things that we always think, and we like to advise that if you're thinking about launching a utility program and you haven't started your workflow processes, it's a really good thing to know that these programs are far, far different than what you may have implemented before. This is probably one of my favorites, only because it speaks to utilities across the board and a lot of large corporations in general, is that we've got to break down the departmental silos with advanced information flow. So a lot of times there's going to be different departments. You've got acquisition and sales, you've got engineering, you've got transmission, you've got planning. All these different work groups have to work as one cohesive team to keep these projects moving forward. But if there's not a free flow of information going back and forth in between, then a lot of times stuff will fall between the cracks. Or even worse, we're not getting feedback from the field or from the next phase to let us know how can we improve on that first phase? What could we have done maybe in the sales side to set the right expectations with our clients so that when they got the preliminary design, they were ready to approve it because there weren't any surprises? Or maybe construction was not going to take the 12 weeks that was initially anticipated. Maybe it's going to take 3 to 4 months. But if you don't have that communication flow, that information is not trickling back, which only inhibits the program from success. So one of the things that we try to incorporate when we work with utilities is customized dashboards that has centralized data. So it's non-subjective, which means that everybody's seeing the same information. You see where your goals are, you see the program health, you can track your project life cycles, your budgets, your attainment, and everybody has access to that same information, and so it's easier to make those necessary program changes or make pivots and processes if needed. And then a transparent program culture with progress visibility, it helps encourage accountability and change. Because in order for some of these programs to be successful, someone's got to raise a flag and say, maybe this isn't fitting in the parameters that we thought it was going to fit in, maybe it's time to make a shift. But if you have all that data, then that will help support any of those changes that you need to make that shift. And this is where our team really likes to kind of come to the forefront with technology. So using technology to transform your implementation. So new programs usually equal a new way of implementing from client engagement to field operations. So April had mentioned before in terms of preliminary designs, having something that looks like the customer's property and they can relate to makes it more tangible for them on their approval process. Because a lot of times these program property managers or these agencies it's just not one layer of approval, right? They've got to go to different board members, they've got to escalate that internally. And so having something that's more tangible helps shorten that approval life cycle. We utilize LiDAR scanning and UAV aerial surveys to improve the design efficiency and help mitigate change orders and redesigns. So from the initial design all the way through final engineering, we highly recommend utilizing technology so that you can help mitigate some of those costs because it's more accurate. Another thing that we've noticed is sometimes if you're looking at the preliminary design and it doesn't look like the actual property design, it usually results in additional changes or redesigns to the client because they don't fully understand what that's going to look like. So we've got, we utilize scanning, but we also incorporate sometimes if necessary 3D modeling as well so they can actually see what that's going to look like on the property and send it through for approval. That way by the time it gets to final engineering, you're not going to have those redesigns. So leveraging technology often helps improve your life cycles. It helps improve your contractor efficiency and then timely project completion as well. April spoke a little bit to this, leveraging your existing ecosystem. So leveraging your internal sales channels, public affairs teams, but with strategic outreach and necessary resources to help set the right expectations with your clients and maintain your customer equity is really important. I can't say enough about this in terms of leveraging your employees in their existing portfolios or modules that they're managing, as well as setting the right expectations early on. Because if you create a streamlined process for them to actually go out and talk to their customers and set the right expectations, it will increase your program for it to be like tenfold. I mean, it really does make a big difference. And here's where there's sometimes a disconnect between what we've seen within the utilities that we've been supporting is that they'll have a specific ED program team and they have their normal sales teams or account executives on one side. And there's not a connected flow of information. So the account teams or executives might be going out and speaking on the program's behalf, trying to get their clients and their agencies really excited about the program. But by the time those applications come into the program, there's a disconnect on what the actual expectations are in terms of qualifying for the program and the designs that we can actually facilitate to fit within the program parameters. So having a set of tools and resources so that your sales teams that are feet on the street, front facing with the clients are going out there with the right information and the right tools to support the program is not only going to help with their particular clients, but it'll kind of web out to other agencies and municipalities that they are in communication with. And you don't lose customer equity because they have all the information up front to make those decisions to say if they should go into the program or if they're going to be a really good fit for the program. And then developing employee program advocates. So if we're leveraging our employees, which usually our employees are probably going to be our strongest advocates for program or sustainability initiatives because it is a really great thing to be involved with. giving them the tools and the resources that they need to actually go out there and talk about your program. And what often happens is the team that's working on the program knows all about the program. They're out there at events, they're out there talking to their family and their friends, they're super pumped up about it, but then everybody outside of that team that's working on the program has no clue really what's going on, or how do they get people into the program. And so increasing that level of awareness and engagement among your employees can really help as well. And creating program advocacy with your existing client base, leveraging their networks. We've been pretty successful at doing this with our PG&E clients up north, where we'll go out on sidewalks and we'll talk to the agencies and we'll say, hey, great, does any of the other cities around you talk to you or come to you for advice on electrification or fleet? And they'll say yes, and so they will actually set us up and become that advocate for the program and set up meetings so we can go out there and talk to them about site designs and site considerations and get additional agencies, municipalities in. And that's just because they're all sustainability initiatives. They're in charge of it, and those other agencies or cities are coming in for advice because they're going through it first. So now we can leverage them to actually get more people into the program and have a really positive experience with that. And then to April's point, engaging your local dealerships, nonprofits, and community groups for broader outreach. Those are things they're already passionate about. Leverage them, keep them engaged. But definitely your existing client base, your internal sales teams, and your existing employees are probably going to help drive the most momentum for the program. And then the last one is just be a catalyst for the culture shift. So this is a little bit different. It can get a little uncomfortable sometimes. But having inclusive weekly sessions across all program phases, that really allows for open dialogue on key learnings and collaborative solutions. So if everybody is feeling comfortable, from your sales acquisition to your engineering to your construction to your project managers, if you're in a room and everybody's feeling comfortable about bringing to the forefront what some of their concerns are, things that aren't working out in the field, what they've been learning, it allows for those solutions that might not come to the forefront because maybe they don't think that something's going to change or they're going to affect change. So we highly encourage, and we try to do this even internally with our teams, is having weekly sessions to really share that information and share the key learnings, and then take that information and make program changes. Change processes, add processes, remove processes, whatever is going to help find the next solution to keep things moving forward. Standardizing communication feedback loop between each of the program phases kind of ties into that. Does your sales team know what your construction team are seeing in the field? Is your engineering team hearing what the permitting issues are so that they can make adjustments on a city-by-city basis? Because we do run into that a lot, where different cities will have different permitting rules. So those are things to consider. If they're sharing that information, everybody can make adjustments, and it's not just internally within your own teams, but are your consultants and your contractors sharing that information with you as well, so that that information is being pooled and everybody can make changes accordingly. Invest in employee engagement and awareness at all levels of the organization. So it's always great to have your executives, talking about programs and getting really excited. But what really helps make a difference is when that comes down to the other levels and to those that are front-facing and dealing with clients every day, and those who are actually part of their workflow or their processes are implementing the program and supporting the program. So employee engagement and awareness definitely is something that is really important for these programs. The last one is set the bar higher with contractors and consultants. So EV programs are not like any other program that a lot of utilities have tried to initiate before, and so the expectations for your consultants and your contractors should be higher as well. And a lot of that, I would say, is not necessarily on the quality of the deliverable, because those should always be high, but the life cycles in which they turn around the deliverables, especially when it has to go back out to the customer and it's customer impacting, that's really important, because those timelines are going to make the difference on whether or not that customer chooses to move forward or finds a different solution for their charging needs. And that's all I have. Okay. Any questions? I know it's hard in the afternoon, right? It's like full day of speeches and coffee and cookies. No?